BaseballTalkRadio.com presents MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week podcast, and we'd like to let our listeners know that we're listener-supported. So please stop by our Patreon page. It's over at patreon.com/MLB This Week. You can sign up for a monthly subscription there. Only a couple bucks a month is all we ask, about a cup of coffee or so. And we're going to use anything we make at our Patreon page to go right back into the show. So that may mean 2 shows a week. It may mean some other exciting things. So we'd like to invite you all over to patreon.com/MLB This Week. Well, here's this edition of the MLB This Week podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week podcast, talking all about the biggest stories in the world of baseball, some of the stories you might have missed, with myself and Mr. Gary Mack.
Hey, Rich, how are you today? It's a little stormy now, but doing this a little bit a day earlier because stuff happens, but a little stormy, but hope our teams get their games in. Philadelphia on the road, or they home?
Philadelphia is home tonight, and as you said, we have some Linus thunderstorms coming right on through New Jersey up through the Northeast. So, yeah, a lot of the teams looking at some weather tonight. But, yeah, as you said, Gary, we hope everybody gets their games in.
Yeah, I hope they do, and hate those rainouts and makeup games, later in the year. The Mets are in Colorado, so don't think there's any bad weather because you never know out there. You could get snow. So we're hoping that it just stays the same. But lots of stuff going on this week, Rich, as usual. So it's a busy time for baseball.
Yes, it is. It's getting warmer out as we go across the country, of course. Although, I just heard a cold front coming down for next week for the Midwest. Maybe it'll cool those Cubs off a little bit and those White Sox off a little.
I don't know if there's anything that can cool them down right now. Only time will tell, but they are off to an incredible start. Everybody says it's going to be their year, but let's see. You still got to get through the playoffs.
That's for sure. And I've heard nothing but Cubs fans just gushing at the way their team has been playing so far. It's great to hear. I think they're on cloud 9, though. As of tonight, we're doing the podcast here on May 14th, 2016. The Cubbies are 27-8. Their last 10 games, they're 8-2, Gary. 13-3 on the road. What an impressive record. And you just can't meet a sad Cubs fan anymore, either on the internet or any other podcast that they're doing.
Oh, that's for sure. They be happy, though. They've suffered a long time, and now they have a very, very good team. But again, it's still so early in the year, and there's a lot of season left to go, and a lot of part of the schedule to play yet. And we'll see what happens when we get into the whole meat and potatoes of this and the summertime and all of that. But again, you have to win in the playoffs, and a lot of teams that have had these great records throughout the season falter in the playoffs. Can remember the Seattle Mariners in 96 or 94, whatever it was, and won the most games ever in a year, and then got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So not always a good thing to get to have the best record, but you do want to get off to a fast start, and the Cubbies have certainly done that.
Yeah, peaking a little early there, maybe, this Cubs team. We'll keep our eye on them as the season goes on. They're 8.5 games ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals. And let's round out the West while we're talking National League here. The LA Dodgers in first place out there at 19-17. They're actually almost tied in a dead heat there with the Giants as of tonight when we're doing this podcast. So a couple of teams we kind of picked for good in the 2016 season are starting to rise to the top out there in the West.
And Rich, you can flip a coin there. I mean, because San Diego is the worst team, and they're only 3.5 games out of first. So Everett's at this point. The surprising team is the Colorado Rockies out there, game below 500, but game and a half out of first. So and that team, they're getting a little bit of pitching, so they could be a team to watch. And believe it or not, they've got a better road record than they do a home record at 11-8 on the road and 6-10 at home. So, maybe that excuse about in Colorado isn't holding up this year, but you can flip a coin in that division, and I think that's going to be a dogfight all year.
Yeah, and then Arizona, as you said, are right in the mix as well. They're currently 3 games back off the pace of the Dodgers. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting season out there in the National League West. And, of course, our home league where we're closest to, the National League East here. What a section that is, with the Washington Nationals leading the way, 23-13 record. They've cooled off a little bit, but they're still maintaining that hot streak that they've been on.
Mm-hmm. And, even that's tightened up a little bit more. People weren't expecting this with Miami in it at 18-17. And a surprise team's got to be your Phillies at 21-15. They're in only 2 games out of first, a half game behind my Mets at second place. So that division, the only really bad team, the team that's out of it as of right now, is Atlanta. But Miami is starting to put some things together, and your Phillies seem to be hanging in there now. Whether or not, again, it's a long season, whether or not they're very young, the Phillies, with a young pitching staff, whether they can hold it together the whole year, we'll have to see. But it's a good time for Philly fans, and you guys should enjoy it while it's here.
Yes, it is. And John Heyman, a baseball writer today, tweeted out that as of right now, Pete Mackanin, who's in his first full season as a Phillies manager, has got his vote for manager of the year. So, as you said, it's still early. 21-15 record, though. Their Pythagorean theory, which is the record that they should have according to how many runs they've scored versus how many runs have been scored against, is the exact opposite with them. They're supposed to be 15-21 according to the way they've been scoring. But as you said, and we talked before the show, a little luck and a little hit or score here or there, being able to hold the lead really carries the day in baseball. It's not all these stats that always are right.
No, and that's exactly right. And you have to have a good team, to be honest with you. But there's always those 5 or 10 games where even a championship team gets the bounce. And you can call it luck. You can say a team was lucky, but you have to have that luck. You have to have that bounce go your way. And we've seen a lot of ball games where ground balls gone up the middle and an inch either way, and a team could have went to the playoffs, so they lost the playoffs. So it's if they're getting the bounce or the luck or whatever you want to call it right now, it's not, don't base your whole season and say, oh, they were lucky. You have to take advantage of those breaks when you get them, and sometimes you make your own luck.
That's for sure. And you won't read about those type of breaks in the sabermetric stats. So people that listen to the podcast know we're not focused on sabermetrics. So we're just letting you know that there's another side of baseball, even though with all these replays now, it seems like they're trying to even the score with some of this. But our first story up tonight leaves us right out of Washington. And you have the story for us with a big buck contract.
Well, yeah, Rich, in a move that really is going to alter the spring training, the winter free agent market, I should say, next year. The Nationals have reportedly agreed to a 7-year, $175 million extension with righty Steven Strasburg. The deal affords Strasburg opportunities to opt out after his third and fourth season. It's also expected that the deal will come with some deferrals, reducing its present value. Strasburg can tack on $1 million annually for every season in which he reaches 180 innings. He reportedly will earn $15 million annually over the 7 seasons of the contract. The remaining $70 million will be deferred without interest and paid out in $10 million installments over a time from 2024. Structure reduces the present value of the contract. But Rich, I think it's the kind of thing that you're going to see nowadays because these contracts are getting so high. So if you can stretch it out. People make the Mets did that 1 year with Bobby Bonilla, and he's still getting paid from me, even though he's been retired for like 8 years. But at the time they weren't laying out that much money, and they were able to get other players. It didn't work out, but with these salaries escalating so high that they're going to have to do nowadays, and the Mets are looking at a bunch of young pitchers that are coming up, and we may see some of this going on with them where they get extended out. And look, if you're a guy like Strasburg, $15 million a year is nothing to sneeze at. Plus, he's going to be getting $10 million a year before, and he'll probably be retired by then. So, through 2030. So in his retirement, he's going to be getting the first 7 years or whatever. He's going to be getting $70 million. So while it seems like it's less now, in the long term, I think it's a smart way to do things, both for the team and for the player.
Yeah, and it's one of those contracts, like you said, that's got an opt-out clause in it for Strasburg. A rare contract for somebody already in a contract that's being represented by Scott Boras. Of course, he's probably one of the most hated reps in the business by most teams, but he has some of the best players. So this contract for Strasburg could be a blessing. It's got to be a blessing in the end, but he can even get out of this contract if things go better for him, maybe. They're thinking maybe in 3 or 4 years, if the Nationals do well and Strasburg continues to do well, maybe his stock will rise even more, and he could opt out of a deal after a 3rd or a 4th year. But I don't know. A lot of these teams get involved in these contracts. 7 years is a long time. We see a Jason Worth now that's batting under 200 for the Nationals. He signed a $126 million deal a few years ago, and the Nationals are paying for somebody that's hitting 200 so far this year. Maybe he's done well prior to that, but I don't know. These long-term contracts, I would kind of stay away from them if I was a Major League Baseball club.
Well, Rich, I think you have to look at it from a different point of view too, though. Don't forget, when Jason Worth was when he signed that contract, looking for some credibility. So they didn't have some of these guys up yet, and he gave them that bit of credibility. It made that place a destination for free agents with a possibility of a destination. And I think sometimes that's what you overpay for. I tend to agree with you about the longish contracts, but you're going to give it to him. And if you've got a guy that's an ace pitcher like this, do you want him going to a competitor? I mean, it's just, it's a contract that fits into their money. They're not paying as much as they paid Strasburg in 1 year, but not Strasburg.
Scherzer.
Max Scherzer. Yeah, thank you. But he's still getting a nice money, and he's going to get it long term. So it's kind of a no-brainer for him. It's a good deal. And the other odd thing is usually, Scott Boras usually takes his guys to free agency. He doesn't normally go for an extension. So for him to go for an extension is an interesting thing to recommend it to his player. And the Mets got a couple of kids that are Boris agents, and I'm sure they're looking at this and cringing a little bit, but also hopeful with the whole extension thing, and that they might be able to work out something like this as well.
Yeah, time will tell with them. Strasburg's still a young guy, going to be 28 very soon. So do the math. He'll be 35 if he stayed the whole time with this contract, which that's probably not going to happen. But as you said, yes, he's going to be the winner in this deal any way you look at it. And he's
I'm sorry, but they could be looking at that he'll definitely opt out in his third season or his fourth season, and so they're really only going to pay him for the 3 or the 4 seasons. It's sort of like the Mets with Yoenis Cespedes. Now he's got a $75 million 3-year deal, but he can opt out after this season, and I'm sure that they are pretty convinced he'll opt out if he has a big year and look for more money. So what did it cost them to get him? It cost them $25 million, which is we wouldn't mind getting that, but it's. I think you're going to see a lot of these opt out things. I think it started with Stanton. I think it's going to start in a lot now. So players have that thing, and it really, a team would probably be in favor because it gives them 2 or 3 years, or in the Mets case a year, but it gives them 2 or 3 years to try to win, and they could figure, well, we'll build a team for 3 years, and then he'll opt out, and then we'll have the money, and we can rebuild again. So it's a whole different world, and it's going to be interesting to see how many of these contracts go about happening.
Yeah, and I'm the type where if I'm negotiating for the team, I'm going to say, well, how about an opt-out for us? Let's give us a 5-year opt-out. Say he flops, he changes into a player that he's not now or he hasn't been previously. Give us a chance to opt out on him as well. But I guess that's the whole idea behind contracts. As you said, it's a very interesting contract. Baseball salaries escalating, and we have a story about that later on in the podcast. I have a nice story on that. So we'll talk more about money and baseball as the podcast goes on, I'm sure. But another Washington National story this week, Gary, and we didn't plan this out, but it just sort of happened this way. Bryce Harper was recently suspended. He was given a 1-game suspension on Saturday night's day-night doubleheader between the Washington Nationals and the Miami Marlins. It was during the 9th inning of the Nationals' 5-4 win over the Detroit Tigers when Harper was in the dugout and he was ejected by umpire Brian Knight. After the Nationals shortstop, Danny Espinosa, was called out on strikes with the game tied 4-4. Well, Harper had a lot to say about that, and he got thrown out, but he even got a 1-game suspension out of the deal. It was announced today that he will serve the suspension, and he dropped his appeal. So there's another Washington National story. NL MVP Bryce Harper. A lot of spotlights on him already this year, Gary.
Well, he got off to a good hot start there, and he still got some growing up to do, I think, Rich. Excellent player, as you said, MVP this year, but that he still got a temper, I guess, and there was a lot of complaints that night, if I remember, about the whole game with the whole balls and strike called, and I guess he took it a step too far, and I guess he said the magic words, and the umpire heard him, and off he went. So, but he's got to learn to really calm down a bit more.
Yeah, and just today in this afternoon's game, there was a picture snapped at him while he was at bat, and there was a small logo that he had taped to the bottom of his bat. It read, quote, MBFA 2016, and it looked like sort of an election type of sticker. It had red and blue with stars on it, and this MBFA 2016. And according to what people know of Bryce Harper, of course, his comments on making baseball fun again, that's what it's supposed to stand for. So he's got a little sticker on the end of his bat saying, make baseball fun again, 2016. So here he goes again. It might be another suspension for him somewhere.
He's trying. He's trying to make it fun, and I guess not always succeeding.
Yeah, I could see something like this catching on. I'm sure it's against the rules. I think we're going to hear a lot more of it. As of right now, not too many stories on this. It's just sort of making the rounds and all. But I think baseball is going to put a stop to that very fast.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
So a couple of stories right off the bat. Washington National talk. And of course, you're listening to MLB This Week. It's the independent podcast, not sponsored by baseball or any other team. Follow us on Twitter. We're at MLB This Week. You can find out when our podcasts are, some other things that we tweet out during the week. And if you want to email us at talk@mlbthisweek.com. That's our email address. You want to make a recording, send it in to us. You want us to mention something on the show, a topic that you come up with, we'd be glad to do it. Check it out. Email us at talk@mlbthisweek.com. You can also go to our website, mlbthisweek.com, and you can follow the links to our online message service where you can record a message with a webcam or something like that, or a microphone if you have it. You can send us a message that way as well. So a lot of ways to get in touch with us, Gary. Why don't you mention some of the audio ends that we're at here on the show?
Well, of course, you can get us at baseballtalkradio.com and listen to it, or at MLBThisWeek.podomatic.com, and you can get the audio version of the show right there and tune it in and whenever you feel like it, because it's there all the time, Rich. So check it out.
Yes,
or you can check out iTunes as well. It's all on iTunes.
iTunes and Stitcher, and we appreciate your support there. Subscribe to us. Leave us a little feedback if you like the show. Tell us where you listen from, perhaps. We appreciate all of that. And, of course, as we led in tonight, we talked a little bit about our Patreon page where we're enlisting support from our listeners. We're going to try to get any support that we get from patreon.com/MLB This Week. We're going to plow it right back into the show, whether it happens to be 2 shows a week or some other special events we might be able to take advantage of. So stop by our Patreon page and become a supporter of this podcast.
There you go. It's a great thing, and it helps us out immensely.
Yeah, another player this week who was suspended, familiar name to you and me.
Well, Rich, we were talking about making baseball fun again, and one guy I think that it hasn't been fun, and I don't think it's been fun for a couple of years for him, is Jose Reyes, and he was suspended by Major League Baseball Friday. He really got a kind of a good deal in a way. He is suspended through May 31st for violating the domestic violence policy of Major League Baseball. You remember they just put that into effect. Reyes agreed to the punishment, will not appeal. The penalty stemmed from an alleged altercation with his wife at a Hawaii resort in October. The suspension is retroactive to February 23rd when Reyes was placed on paid leave. Through this Friday, he had missed 35 games. He will lose $6,251,366 and $366 in salary as a result of the suspension. That amount was negotiated with the Players Association as part of an agreement that he would lose pay for 52 games based on the 183 days that span the regular season. Reyes is scheduled to make $22 million this year. As part of the discipline, he has agreed to donate $100,000 toward the prevention and treatment of domestic violence. He can take part in extended spring training and is eligible to start a minor league rehabilitation assignment June 1st. The Rockies are 17-18 without him, and especially after Friday's 5-2 win over the Mets. Now, Rich, I just had a guy on from Colorado this past week on Mets Musings, and he says they don't really even care if he comes back. He's not very well liked. He made the statement that he doesn't want to play for a losing team, and I think this is a guy that took the big bucks, and you can't blame him. But I think he's been a miserable ball player since then. He took the big bucks, think he's going to Miami, went to Miami, and I can remember doing a Mets Musings with my former co-host Barry, and we talked about this and said he won't be there more than a year or two. We thought he'd be with the Yankees by now when Jeter retired, but that didn't pan out. But was in Miami a year and then traded the next season, I think, to Toronto. Was there a couple of years, and just as they started to get better and win, they dumped him off to Colorado and brought in Tulowitzki. And I just think he's a miserable player. He signed for the money, and nobody blamed him at the time, but he had a smaller contract that was offered to him by the Mets in about mid-season and said he's not going to negotiate, and then got this huge offer in the offseason and jumped on it, never went back to the Mets, and the Mets never went back to him. So they've got some blame in this whole thing as well. But I think clearly he was a guy that took the money and never realized the circumstances or what was going to happen, and went to Miami, got traded from them. And it's been Toronto and Colorado since then, and he had some injuries in Toronto. Now he's got this in Colorado, and he's not welcome there. And with the addition now, with the rise of Trevor Story out in Colorado, they really don't need a shortstop. So what's going to happen in June and July is going to be fascinating. If the rookie starts to fade, perhaps there'll be a position for Reyes, but he's not well appreciated out there. And the people and I don't blame the fans, he comes out and says, I don't want to play for a losing team. And I understand he's 32, 33 now, whatever, doesn't want to, but it had to burn him last year when Toronto trades him and Toronto makes the playoffs. And he looks at his old team, the Mets, and they're making the playoffs and going to the World Series. But it was his decision. He took the money, and this was the circumstances. And I don't know what else to say. I hope he gets his stuff together and gets back to playing, but not a good scene. And again, he was a guy that his game was based on speed and on happiness. He loved playing the game, and I don't think he's been very happy about it the last few years.
Yeah, and he'll turn 33 on June 11th. Suspended for the better part of 58 games. It's going to cost him $7 million. So, yeah, it's going to be a rough time for him. Hopefully, whatever happened, he can put it behind him, get back to playing baseball. If not in Colorado, maybe somewhere else. A lot of things go on behind the scenes that maybe we're not even aware of. So with his personal life, that's something that he's going to work out on his own or not work out. So hopefully he'll be able to work that out. and get back to playing baseball. Go somewhere where he's happy, and maybe where he's more appreciated and he appreciates them. So Jose Reyes, not one of my favorite players over the years, but I wish him well.
Well, yeah, his star has gotten a little rusty in the last few years, and he's not the same player he was, and maybe he's got to accept that fact. It could be a lot of things that you realize you're not the man anymore on the team, and you can't do what you did at 28 or 27 or 26, and to have this all over your head and then to be traded and everything.
And we don't know.
Still get paid.
Yeah, and we don't know how they really are off the field. We just assume that they're upstanding people, they're baseball players, so they should be at a higher standard. Well, that doesn't always happen, unfortunately. So hopefully he'll straighten out whatever he's been going through, get back on the straight and narrow, and we won't have to read about this anymore. But yeah, Jose Reyes, it's been sort of dragging along. A lot of people thought he might get away with whatever happened, and I'm not even quite sure what went down in Hawaii, but it was a domestic dispute. So hopefully you can clear that up and get back to straight and narrow real soon.
Well, he was not charged with anything. His wife refused to file any charges. So one of the questions I asked a gentleman, Kevin Henry from the Rock Pile, which is a Colorado Rockies blog. He was a guest on my show, as I said. I asked him why did he think that Chapman only got 30 games for a similar type of thing. And Reyes is really getting hit a lot harder than Chapman did. And one of the reasons was probably because there was no police report with the Chapman thing, and he don't know if he physically touched the wife or whatever, whereas it's reported that Reyes apparently grabbed her or shook her or whatever. And I guess they just want to make it an example with the whole domestic violence policy that they put into effect. And, he's going to be the guy now. And, but again, I think a lot of it goes back to, just not happy.
Well, we'll see if he can straighten that up, put a smiley face on him, and get back to baseball. Well, somebody that always wears a big smile in baseball is one of baseball's best players. Of course, I'm talking about Mike Trout. And we've been talking about him on this program for the last year and a half or so, maybe even since the beginning. He's one of the best players in baseball, but he's only now starting to see the fruits of all that greatness. This year, his salary jumped up to $6 million, $6,083,000 to be precise. Last year, he made a cool $1 million, Gary. So we've heard the name Mike Trout so much in comparison with great baseball players, but now he's only starting to see the fruits of his labor. And, of course, as the years go on, he will be making a lot more money. And actually, I slipped up. Last year, he made $6 million. This year, he's up to $16 million. So his contract is escalating as the years goes on as well. But another cool feature is to follow him on the OC Register, which is the OrangeCountyRegister.com. It's a newspaper out there in Anaheim. You can check out all the latest stats about Mike Trout. They have a page devoted to him there on the Orange County Register. And they have something called the Trout-o-Meter. and what that is it's a constantly running stat between him and Mickey Mantle based upon games played. And as it sits today, as I'm reading this Trout-o-Meter, in home runs, it's Mike Trout with the more home runs at this point with 687 games in his career, 146 home runs compared with Mickey Mantle's 136. And there's different stats where you can click on and find out the differences between the two players. For instance, RBIs. Right now, Mickey Mantle actually hit more RBIs as of 687 games, 477 total. And Mike Trout's got 421. So if we continue to click on some of these stats here, another Mantle win here, 39 triples as of this stage in his career compared with Mike Trout's 33. So if these stats continue to go Mickey Mantle's way, maybe they'll change this Trout-o-Meter a little bit. But for right now, it's a fun little thing you can check out over there at ocregister.com and their sports page. Check out the Trout-o-Meter.
All right. Sounds like fun. And people can check it out this weekend because this is play ball weekend, I think, Rich. Major League Baseball introduced its inaugural play ball weekend. And I guess we're going to see a lot of youth clinics and visits by players and cap exchanges. I think the Phillies are doing a cap exchange. And warning track parades, kids running the bases, ticket and equipment donations, the whole 9 yards. Some teams are giving out the plastic ball and bat sets. It's just going to be everything aimed at kids and play ball weekend. This league-wide effort was announced this week by MLB, and all 30 clubs are going to engage in it and engage young fans and celebrate the continued support for youth participation in baseball and softball. It launched today, and it will be also tomorrow in ballparks around the majors. And they're going to wear specially made play ball T-shirts during batting practice and play ball patches on uniforms during games. Man, they got a uniform, a patch, or something for everything now, don't they? We spoke about last week about the Mother's Day, and there's going to be a Father's Day. Now they got play ball T-shirts for batting practice. So, and this is an extension of the Play Ball Initiative, which launched in 2015 as the sport's largest effort to encourage widespread participation in both formal and casual baseball and softball activities. So, and if you're an away team, you can select another date for your play ball weekend activity. So, fun thing for the kids, Rich, this weekend, if you can get to the ballpark, weather permitting in our neck of the woods, but it's play ball weekend and lots of stuff for the kids, and any adults can have some fun too.
Yeah, they're giving out wiffle bats and balls out there. As you said, it's just a great way to interest younger kids in the game. And, of course, a lot of that's been waning of late, especially with soccer starting to gain with some of the kids, football, that sort of thing, and video games. That's probably one of the biggest challenges of sports, to get a lot of kids away from the computers, the tablets, the PlayStations and what have you, and get out there and throw a ball. What a novel idea. Get out there and play a little ball.
Yep, that's it. Throw a ball, swing a bat, run around some bases, run to the manhole cover and the fire hydrant, and like we did when we were kids, play some stick ball. We used to play all kinds. Stick ball, punch ball, slap ball, four corners. You had to watch the traffic for the four corners, but it was, it was a quieter neighborhood there. It wasn't on a main street, but yeah, you don't see kids out. You don't see kids out playing in general anymore.
Yeah,
and that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, it's almost like they've become glued to their televisions and their video games. So, yeah,
that's it. That's it.
There's always going to be a small percentage of people that are drawn to sports, but we'd like to see a lot more. And it's great activity for the kids. I know, like you said, Gary, when I grew up, we were always out. We were out more than we were in.
Yes.
So,
yeah, we'd get itchy if somebody said, "Oh, come on, we'll hang out at my house." I don't want to hang out at your house. I'm like, let's do something. Let's go somewhere. Let's play some ball. Let's do something. Yeah, it's a different world, Rich, and I guess we have to accept it. But baseball making an effort to make some changes in that way. And Rich, you've got a story about security almost.
Yes, in this day and age of tight security, getting into the stadiums and all the stadiums now have metal detectors. You have to empty your pockets to get through, collect your goodies on the other side of the metal detector. Well, this day and age, one slick cat did manage to get by all that security, and it was literally a cat, not a person. But the other night in the Angels-Cardinals game over in Anaheim, a big, bright orange tabby cat ran onto the field. It circled the bases, and of course the crowd routed up a little bit, and it jumped right into the stands, ran halfway from third base to home just about before one of the ushers was able to grab him. But it was quite a sight there. The Anaheim folks have tabbed him Rally Cat 2, and of course now they're trying to find him a home. They are working with an agency in helping animal rescues, and that's their goal. They want to see this cat get a nice home now. Of course, he's a famous cat, so somebody out there might want this cat, especially now that he's been on the field down there in Anaheim, running around the field and jumping into the stands for the fans.
Well, at least it wasn't a black cat, so it's they're calling it a rally cat. So I guess it was good luck for the Angels. It goes back to that story with the '69 Cubs and the Mets. They were fighting for a pennant, and they were Cubs were playing at Shea Stadium, and a black cat came out and walked right up and down the Cubs dugout and looked Leo DeRocha right in the face. And right after that, the Cubs went on like a losing streak, and of course the Mets went on to win the pennant and the World Series that year. But at least this wasn't a black cat, Rich. So maybe he'll be a good luck charm for the Angels.
Yeah, and they need some good luck. Of course, they named Rally Cat 2 because they already had a Rally Cat 1. As I did some research on this article, was back in 2014 when a black tuxedo cat had been spotted by a cameraman before a game in 2014. Later on, the cat appeared in the right field scoreboard. The Angels then came from behind to win the game against the Tampa Bay Rays. So Rally Cat 1 was good luck for the Angels, and also Rally Cat 2 was good luck for them. The Angels did rally and come back to win. They beat the Cardinals that evening, so they like their cats over there in Anaheim.
I guess so. They really do.
And you got to wonder how stray cats get into stadiums, but that's another show.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand, more in Chicago or Boston because those are in neighborhoods, and cats could get out, and you got to wonder on these suburban stadium deals, somebody brings them and kind of lets them loose then, or finds them locally and then just kind of brings them to the game, and hopefully they can get in there and get some entertainment going. I don't know.
Well, let's jump out to San Fran for the start of this story. One of my favorite pitchers over the last few years. And you have a story about him.
Yeah, Tim Lincecum, the freak, could be back in the major leagues. He hasn't signed with a club yet, but he had a pitching showcase last Friday, and the list of potential destinations for him is clearing up. According to a report from Fox Sports on Thursday, the three teams most interested in Lincecum are the Giants, the Angels, and the White Sox, but he's not close to making a final decision. On the other hand, the Padres and Mariners will not look to sign Lincecum. Also, according to Fox Sports, the Marlins, another team that attended the showcase, do not appear to be seriously considering signing him either. The Giants, Angels, and White Sox could all find use for Lincecum. He has pitched his entire career for the Giants, making 4 All-Star games and winning 2 National League Cy Young Awards. Francisco has expressed interest in him specifically as a long relief option, and he wants to start. He's always been a starter. The Angels are in dire need. As we were just talking about the Angels, they're in dire need of pitching and of injuries. Ace Garrett Richard needs Tommy John surgery. Andrew Haney is out while attempting to rehab a partially torn UCL. And Tyler Skaggs and C.A. Wilson are still in the process of recovering from surgical procedures of their own. And the White Sox could use a pitcher to replace longtime starter John Danks, who the team released May the 3rd. But, of course, they got Chris Sale, so I don't know what else they need than him. But he can't pitch every day, I guess. So, but the end of soon, and apparently he had hip surgery to replace or to fix some problems that he was having there, and hasn't re-signed, but looks like he did pretty good in this showcase, so we could be seeing him back in the mound sometime soon.
Yeah, and it seemed like his career went by so fast. It just seemed to me a few years ago when he came up out of the minors and then onto the Giants. 31 years old now, made a tidy sum over his career so far. Made $18 million last year. So I don't think we've seen the last of Lincecum. I think he could be a good reliever for a couple years at least. And we'll have to see. It seems like his career has sort of waned faster than most, but that's the way it goes sometimes in Major League Baseball.
Well, he has that weird motion, and apparently it put a lot of wear into his hip. He had the surgery, as I said, to repair whatever it was, and he feels better now. You know, he kind of made a mistake when the whole money thing came about, though. They offered him an extension. He turned it down 1 year. I think signed a 1-year deal instead, and did not have a good year. And really the money when he came off of that second Cy Young, and you know, if it was his agent or whoever gave him the wrong information, I think I mean, nothing to cry about. Anybody making $18 million, you can't complain. Should have been up more with the more echelon players, and but you know, mistakes were made, and there you go.
So we'll keep an eye on his career. I hadn't realized he wasn't with the Giants this year. I sort of lost track of him a little bit. So we'll see if Lincecum can land with a new team in 2016. I'm sure he probably will. And as we've been mentioning a little bit about baseball salaries, our next story leads right into that. And this is a hard statistic to believe, but I was reading a little bit today in Forbes.com on the average baseball salary from the first collective bargaining agreement, which happened way back in 1968. The average baseball salary is up 20,700% since the first CBA in 1968. Kind of a tough figure to realize there, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah, it certainly is. But not when you look at the tickets, I guess. You know, stub from the '69 World Series, I think it was $10, and then now what do they go for, $250 or something? So
$300, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just it thing went up, Rich. We used to get the can of tuna for 10 cents. Now, no more.
The first CBA raised the minimum salary from $6,000, which was the level for 20 years, believe it or not. That was the minimum salary prior to 1968. And that's what I think a lot of those guys made back in the 50s, the early 60s. A lot of them didn't make much money. They raised that up to $10,000 in 1968 for this first collective bargaining agreement. And that figure has blossomed into $507,500 as of this year in 2016. That's the minimum you can make as a baseball player. And that's a tremendous rise. It's over 20,000%. And of course, a lot of the players make much more than that. So baseball is a very good, lucrative career for a lot of people. And here's one other stat to keep in mind from this Forbes article. The average per capita income last year, they're just not keeping up with this pace of the growth in baseball, was $47,727, according to the statistics. And that's only a 1,300% gain since 1967. Or if you want to look at it after inflation, it's only about double, 101% more after inflation. So baseball salaries have risen 16 times faster than the U.S. as a whole. So some win, some lose, and some are still making about the same. So if you want some good advice, play baseball if you're a young person.
And unfortunately, you got to go through the minors, and the minors hasn't changed much, and their salaries are really pathetic. But this is why we could be seeing more of these PED things and all the other steroids and stuff, because how many jobs can you get as a 19, 20, 22-year-old, 24-year-old that pays you $500,000 a year? It's just not out there. So you want to hook on to a club. You want to make a club. You want to hang on for a couple of years, make some money, bank what you can, and all players, a 25 guy on the roster, those guys want to battle and they want to stay on their team, because from 500,000 it just goes up. If you get to arbitration, you're going to go up higher. We may see more of this PEDs and steroids and things like that. So
yeah,
a lot of money.
Yep, and as you said, it's so hard to make it from the minors into the majors. You've got like probably a 10% chance of doing that. You have so many people that are in the minors, and a lot of them unfortunately stay there. They never make it to the big clubs. You've only got a few years, maybe 4 or 5 years to make it, and after that, you're usually not going to make it to the big club. So, yeah, it's quite a accomplishment just to make it to the big club. So let's review some of the American League standings before we come to our last story here, Gary. Over in the AL East, it's the Baltimore Orioles, came out of nowhere so far and have this division in first place so far. They're a half game above the Boston Red Sox, and close behind them is the Toronto Blue Jays at 4.5 games back. A lot of people picked Toronto this year to do something good. Jumping over to the Central, of course, it's Chicago. They're my kind of town, and everybody seems to love Chicago these days.
Yeah, certainly do. And they're off to a pretty good start, though they seem to be slowing up a little bit now. So maybe the league is going to catch up to them. But, they've got off to a good start, so can't really complain about that. And Cleveland's up there in second place, and Kansas City's in third. And Rich, you got to worry. They're not even at 500. You got to wonder whether or not they're having a World Series over there in Kansas City. It's a tough thing to win, and enjoy the winter as the world champions, and then to come back and try to defend. And again, it's a long season. They could put it together, but Rich, my Minnesota is very disappointing. I really thought they were going to be the surprise team, and boy, they're not even in double digits yet. So
a lot of people did. A lot of people picked the Twins. They're on an 8-game losing streak now that you mention it. Nowhere to go but up for the Twins.
Wow, I don't think they can go any lower. Else, well, they could. They're a game ahead of Atlanta, so I guess. And over in the West, the AL West, Seattle surprisingly got the lead, Rich. And another team that I thought, the Houston Astros, Well, they're in last place. Uh, they seem to be a little bit better though lately. So they'll put it.
It'll be interesting to see what happens out there in Houston. Of course, they have a younger team, but they're 15 and 23, so they got to pull it together, and hopefully everything will be better for them. And as you said, the Angels, a lot of people are picking them for the last few years. They're tanking. Maybe they need a few more cats on the field, some more luck to bring them up a little bit. They're 14 and 21, 7 games back. Still rumblings of maybe trading Mike Trout. I think that would be sacrilegious for them, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, well, remember you can come here for Harvey and Lagares.
Easy package deal.
We'll show him a nice home.
Well, you have our final story of the night here. One story that we both love to talk about usually, and that's food at the ballpark.
It's a food story, Rich. It wouldn't be MLB this week without a food story. And if you go over to MILB, site of minor league baseball, they are holding a contest to see what the favorite foods are at minor league ballparks across the country. It is called Food Fight. And you get to vote for the favorite dishes as they face off against one another. And I pulled out a couple here. They have everything from the Southern Hudson Comfort. It's a Belgian waffle with scallions, bacon, and cheddar baked in, topped with chicken tenders, crispy bacon, pepper jack cheese, lettuce, tomato. You have to get your vegetables in there, and honey bourbon barbecue sauce, and it's served at Dutchess Stadium, which is the home of the Hudson Valley Renegades in the league. And another one is the Squealer, Rich. It's a half-pound all-beef foot-long hot dog stuffed with pulled pork and cheddar cheese, wrapped in bacon, deep-fried, and drizzled with barbecue sauce. And you can check that out, the Squealer, at the Akron Rubber Ducks in Akron, Ohio. That's where they serve that delicious dish. And one more, Rich, if you can take it. It's called the Bully, New York Penn League, the Connecticut Tigers of the New York Penn League, and it's ribeye cheese, grilled onions, mushrooms, pickles, hot peppers, sweet peppers, and cheese whiz, all served there. And I don't know about you, but I'm starving now, and their seasons haven't even started yet. So,
yeah,
got to make a tour of the New York Penn League this year and pick up some of these dishes.
Yeah, it makes the mouth water for sure. All those onions, and as you said, the 5 food groups. You got your vegetables in there, cheese, meat. How could it be bad for you? And that, of course, is what I used to think about Big Mac.
Yeah, exactly. Delicious. Sometimes the pictures aren't appetizing, but these pictures are very good. And I'll definitely have to try the Southern Hudson Comfort when I go up to Hudson Valley to check out a Renegades game this year. But so go to MILB and you can vote in the food fight.
Very cool. Great story there. Always look forward to our food stories here on the program. And as you said, Gary, I'm hungry too now.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring this podcast to a timely close here, get a snack or two, reload some of our stories for next week's program. We've got a few already percolating in the back corners there at MLB This Week headquarters. So please tune in to our next program for MLB This Week. And Gary, it's been a great show again, and can't wait again until next week.
Rich, have a great week, and everybody out there, see you at the ballpark.
And I did want to say thank you for all the prayers for my co-host from Phillies Talk, Jim Mulry, and please continue them because he's needing them more now than ever. So if you're a listener of Phillies Talk, and he's also been on Gary's show, Mets Musings, please keep pulling for him. And we want him to get out of this and get back to the podcast. So thanks again for all the listeners that took the time to mail in and wish him well and have me wish him well. So thanks very much.